be prepared to be compared. And if you aren't going through and doing some comp shopping every once in a while, it's really difficult to understand the buying psychology that people in your local area are making and how you can capitalize on it.
Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I have a wonderful guest, somebody with a great personality. I'm not going to try to hide the topic. Marketing is something we cover a lot here, and this is yet another marketing expert. But what I want you to pay attention to is every time we bring a marketing expert on, that expert has another spin. There's another thing that they, something that's their focus, something that they're really good at. So, and there's always amazing pearls of wisdom that we can pull from them. So I don't want you to shut down and say, oh no, not another marketer. Like that's, that we want to approach this episode with excitement and anticipation for what is something that I can glean from this conversation that I don't already know, that I can incorporate into my law firm and really help me with growing my business, growing my practice. So our guest today is Paul Mackiewicz, and he is the CEO of Marketing Expert. No, he is a CEO and marketing expert in the company #Smart Life. Got that wrong. So sorry about that. And he, I'm guessing from his background in the video, which is a U.S. Army background, that he's a veteran. So we're going to probably talk about that for a bit. He was on other shows, and one of them was From Military to Millionaire. So these various things are telling me that there's a story there. So let me read the official intro because it's probably covered in there. I just didn't read it yet. So Paul Mackiewicz is bringing honor back to digital marketing. He and his company have devoted their professional lives to finding and amplifying the message of other honorable businesses across the U.S. He's an Army veteran, entrepreneur, devoted husband, proud father, an adventurer, mediocre but passionate golfer, and most would say a good dude. Paul exemplifies expert level marketing knowledge with an amateur level earn it mentality. I don't even know what that means, but maybe we'll dive into that in our conversation. What I do want to make note of is devoted husband, proud father. You guys know I'm very much a family man. I have 6 children, and my focus is on how to help you grow your business in a way that you are able to make family a priority and able to, set your own hours and be present for your kids when they're there. And if you don't have kids, be present for your spouse. And if you don't have a spouse, be present for your loved ones or the people that are meaningful in your life. So I really love a number of things in this intro, and also this bringing honor idea, which comes from his Army background apparently, but it really, it resonates with me because one of the key components in being able to run a successful business is integrity. And the more that you're in integrity, the more likely you are to be able to have clients who are happy with your work and are singing your praises, have other lawyers that you affiliate with send you business because they know that if they send it to you, that's going to be handled, it's going to be taken care of. Have other professionals in appropriate industries be referral partners for you because you're sitting in integrity. So I use the word integrity a lot, and I think that that's what we mean by honor. So I really like this, the way that this was written, and I'm excited to bring Paul on the show to you. Attend a coaching session with one of our coaches, and you can get there at profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. So I invite you to take advantage of that. There's really no strings attached, even though there is an opportunity to join our program at the end. There's no pressure. There's no obligation. We're not a high pressure sales team. If it's for you, great. If not, also great. So take advantage of that free coaching session and go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. So Paul, welcome to the show.
Oh, super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure, and we really appreciate you giving of your time and your expertise today to our listeners. We're going to start with something really easy. You may have covered it in the intro, but in your own words, people who are listening to this, they don't know who Paul Mackiewicz is. Give us the broad strokes. What's your story? What's your journey? Who are you, and how do you step into becoming this marketing expert?
Yeah, I have one of those fun kind of meandering career paths. I didn't grow up saying, I want to be this thing. I was always very jealous of those people that like knew what they wanted to do. And I went to college for a year, changed my major 4 times, and was selling a Army recruiter golf clubs at Dick's Sporting Goods. 2 weeks later, I showed up at my parents' house. I was like, hey, join the Army. I'll see you guys in a few years. And it was after 9/11. So it was, a lot of patriotic fervor going on. I was felt it was my duty in a way, because I didn't feel like I was providing a whole lot of value to others in any other meaningful way at that time in my life. My grandfather was a tanker in World War II. My father was in the Air Force National Guard during Vietnam. So, I had a bit of that history. And so I joined the military. I took off, did my 3 years, knew that I wasn't a lifetime military guy, but spent a little over a year of that in Iraq back in 2004. We were the very first artillery unit in there. So very early in the war is when I was there. When it was kind of the Wild West and nobody really had any idea what was going on. Came back and finished out my duty, and still wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do. I knew that I enjoyed serving people. That was about it. And when I was in the military, I really built up a passion for golf. And in doing that, I became a golf pro for a few years after I got out. It was the greatest job ever. It also was extremely difficult to make a living. Unless you were playing on Sundays, that's kind of the career path there. Instead, I was running a course and running junior tournaments and giving lessons all day. So as that career path kind of wound down, I started working for Dick's Sporting Goods again, manager, became a business analyst, got burnt out on that, went over and I ran a guy's company for a while, which was a bar, restaurant, indoor golf simulators, driving range, like entertainment center, and doubled his revenue in about a year and a half. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm really good at this, coming into businesses and cleaning them up. So I took what money I had. I went up to New Mexico and started a scooter rental company. I had 5 locations.
A what rental company?
Scooters.
Okay.
I'd show up in like downtown Santa Fe, like pop-up shop, rent out scooters for the day. I had little GPS trackers on them and bring them all back at the end of the day. Pack it all up, go somewhere new the next day, and eventually end up building up 5 locations in a year. So I built a pretty decent sized company in short order, and a lot of that was done through digital marketing, and having all the correct listings, being sure people could find us, being sure our social media was on point, and that we were getting people excited about the opportunity of zipping around the town while they're on vacation and things like that. I got a job offer to go back to New York City. I'm originally from Buffalo, so I'm from New York, but more practically the Canadian side. Toronto was the big city growing up. But I went out to New York. I always wanted to live there. 2 of my best friends live there. And I started working with a company, Main Street Hub, which some people might know. They were at one point the largest digital marketing company for small businesses in the entire US. I was probably like the 15th, 16th employee when I got there, and leaving 2 years later, there's over 350 people on that floor. 2 blocks south of Times Square, I was managing a huge team, and we made the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies list 2 years in a row. And I was a marketing executive with them. And then met the woman of my dreams, we moved to Miami. I got on with another digital marketing company, but this time in the legal side. And they did more websites and SEO was their focus. So I got this idea of social and reputation management and business listings for Main Street Hub. And then I got a little bit more of the technical, in-depth website SEO stuff from On the Map Marketing. And then I moved out to California with my wife and opened up a new office for OTM. Did that for a while. And then I really was thinking, I'm getting promoted nonstop. I really enjoy this company, but I think it's time to do my own thing. And that's when hashtag smart marketing was born. And initially I was working with some restaurant groups. We opened in October 2019. By March, I lost all my clients because COVID had hit. All those restaurant groups had to scale back. And we pivoted pretty quickly and seamlessly into legal and medical because I had a lot of experience with it. And we've had amazing success since then. We are not a churn and burn company, which was really what I learned not to do from those other companies. Their retention was like 6 months and 9 months. And I thought, why can't people grow a digital agency through retention and just doing really good, high quality work and having a better relationship with their clients so we could portray them online in a more succinct way. So that's really what we're built on, is understanding our clients, really highlighting their value propositions and what makes them special and unique. And being, the military side and, doing all of our work honorably, integrity. I was a pretty good soldier. So the Army Corps values is always leadership, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. And that's what we try to live up to here as well.
Well, Paul, that's quite the story, quite the journey. I didn't count all the hops, but sounds like you've got quite the eclectic experience or background in various different things. My curiosity's peaked a little bit in COVID when you switched. Like, why medical and legal? Like how did you settle on that? But I don't want to focus there. So I'll ask you real quick if it, and you can share that. But I do want to jump into your marketing expertise.
Yeah, well, the biggest part of what we were doing and really where we're providing the most value for our clients is in saving time. I think that is an immensely underrated aspect of having a good digital marketing company. We don't even really refer to it as digital marketing as much as online presence management, because when you're running a firm, you went to law school, you did all this stuff. You probably didn't take a whole lot of business classes. In most cases, didn't take a whole lot of marketing classes. And a lot of times you're coming into having a particular skill, but not knowing how to amplify the message of the value that you're providing, having that skill. And what I've learned with a lot of law firms, and one of the big reasons that I transitioned to the medical and legal side, was because I thought that I could provide a lot of value to those businesses that honestly didn't have a whole lot of marketing companies that were going above and beyond and asking the right questions. I think that's one of the most important parts of marketing is getting to understand your client in a way that you could portray them online that's actually going to generate revenue for them. So many marketing companies are like, yep, we'll post on your social, we'll, build you a good website. But like, if every website looks the same, or, I'm looking at 2 or 3 different attorneys, I'm making some quick comparisons. If there's nothing on that website or in that social that I'm going to build an emotional connection with, like feel something, I'm not going to consider them, right? Everybody does free consultations. Everybody, it's 24/7 or a chat bot on their website. There's nothing special about those things. But if you are heavily involved in your community, if you really put thought into your website, like I have one client, I just asked him the question, like, what emotion do you want people to feel when they get to your website? And he's like, you know what? Nobody's ever asked me that before. They kind of just want to slap up there 150 million one for our clients and, all the same. So with him, he said, I'm personal injury. So most people, when they have to contact me, they're not in a real great place in their life, right? They probably just had an accident or a workplace accident or a car accident. They're figuring these things out. I want people to feel when they get to my site that, the dark days are over. The overcast clouds are breaking, sunlight's coming through, they're safe with me. So his law firm is Drake Law Firm. And so when you get to his website, that's exactly what you see. You see the sun kind of coming through the clouds, his smiling face, big tagline, "You're safe with Drake." It's much more of an emotional connection that you feel like, okay, I think this guy can actually take care of me. And by asking those right questions, though, that's one of the big things that is missing from the legal and the medical side. One of the big reasons I wanted to get involved over there.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to check the website out as you're talking.
Oh, sure. Yeah. DrakeLawGroup.com is his website.
What? So I a Google search brought up a whole bunch of Drakes. DrakeLawGroup.com.
And some other like fun stuff with him too is, what do you do on social media when you're a law firm? Do you just say, "Hey, we do personal injury law," or we had this case win? That stuff's good, but it's the fun stuff that people engage with. So with him, we started doing some comparisons with like Drake the rapper versus Drake the lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And it really took off. Like he was getting a lot of engagement on the social, so much so that he started taking out billboards that had different Drake lyrics on it. Like "You the Best," because people are gonna make that connection now. If you're a Drake fan and you got this lawyer who obviously is cool enough to understand who Drake is and the impact that he's had on the music scene, now you're gonna have a little bit of a connection with this guy, and so you got to use what you have and just not be the same as everybody else out there.
Yeah, I love that. And you've shown by example how, you can personalize the law firm, but what is the step-by-step process, I guess, that a law firm needs to go through to understand who they are, to understand how to personalize themselves, to differentiate themselves from other law firms? You asked a question to your client of, how do you want people to feel when they get to your website? What are the questions that our listeners should be asking themselves to pull out the answers that they need for how to position themselves in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think the first thing to do is really sit down and eliminate whatever fear you can. There's so many law firms that I've talked to over the years that are like, "Oh, like I don't know if I want to post that on social. That's there forever." I'm like, "No, it's not. If you don't like it, we'll just delete it. We'll take it down. Who cares? Like if something's not speaking to the value that you present, nothing on the internet is really that permanent. It'll get indexed by Google. You can put something else up there, have that indexed by Google, and boom, it's practically gone. And nothing is ever so bad to the point where somebody's going to look at it and be like, "Oh, he likes Drake the rapper, I'm not using him." Like, you got to use a little common sense around it. And so one of the very first things that I talk with clients on is whatever fear or misconceptions that you have about the permanence of who you are, you can change that time and time again. I use my own story all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm a golf pro, and now I put in my bio that I'm a mediocre golfer. And it's like it's something that I used to take a whole lot of pride in. I'm still the best golfer of all my friends, but I'm not playing on Sundays or on the PGA Tour or anything. So yeah, I can poke fun at that and enjoy it and talk about being a mediocre golfer. I was a scooter company owner at one point, and now I run a marketing company. Like, very different worlds, but you don't have to be locked into something forever. And the fear of, being this one thing, like, play around with it. Marketing is supposed to be fun. That's, I tell people that all the time, like that, people don't watch Mad Men and, not enjoy the experience of sitting here and thinking outside the box and what's these different emotional connections that we can build. So some of the questions I ask is obviously the emotional connection. I want to get people thinking, because most law firms haven't thought about that really. One of the other questions that tends to get the ball rolling is, if you were a celebrity online, which celebrity would you be? What's nice about that is it's something that a marketing company can really attach onto. I had one guy tell me Paul Rudd I was like, all right, so little cute, quirky, not like the sexiest guy in the world, but like guy next door, friendly, all that. I was like, we could work with that. Some people say The Rock or Ryan Reynolds or, but it immediately informs me how this person sees themselves. And if I know that, then it's a lot easier for me to, start generating content for social or even when we're writing content for the website, the tone of voice that we want to use, things like that. Asking them what their most memorable case is, not necessarily like what was your biggest win, but what's your most memorable. And I've had some law firms talk to me about, driving cross country when they were just starting their firm and, to meet a guy that had a TBI and, really got to know the family and the emotion that goes into all of that. I have another law firm up in Detroit. He always thinks about spending 5 weeks at this crappy little motel for his very first workers' comp case that he had never done workers' comp before. He was winging it. He was figuring it out. And the struggle and getting to know that family. And, he still gets Christmas cards and everything from that family, 10 years later now because of that connection that he had. And so seeing that kind of behind the curtain stuff that most law firms are too afraid to put out there really can be one of your biggest value propositions if you use it right.
You mean highlighting the fact that you had a client that was the first one, were learning on their backs and figuring it out as you go, or the connection piece of it, or both, right? What?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think people buy from people they like. People tend to like people that have good stories, and having a little bit of humility, a little bit of self-deprecation there. That hey, I wasn't great then, yet I'm great now. I may not have been great then. That can go a long way in showing that little bit of vulnerability online.
Yeah, it's authenticity, right? Like if you're willing to share with people, yeah, of course, everybody has to have their first case that they do, and no, you don't want your client to know that they're your first, but you're willing to share that and talk about it, and it definitely adds a level of authenticity to the rest of whatever you're sharing. So I could totally see the value there. Now you talk about you doing social posts for your clients and things like that. I always have this dilemma when it comes to marketing. There's so many different ways to market, right? Like if we had to write a book, it would probably be like 1,000,001 ways to market, and there's still more that aren't listed, right? So there's so many options out there. How does a firm know based on their size and where they're at and what they already have in place and what they're lacking and what practice area they are and what their target client is? Like, how do you navigate that? Like, just the start, like where do I start? Where do I put my efforts in? What is the most important thing to do? Like, is there one thing that every law firm, no matter size, no matter practice area, that you got to get this down before you can do anything else?
Yeah, it's definitely systematic, the work that we do, because step one is always business listings. It's pretty mind-blowing to me how many law firms I check their listings and they're not in half the places that they should be. Like even Yelp, as a company, like I've been a Yelp advertiser for 3 years now. They're not the easiest company to work with. They're also, have a little bit of a bad stigma to them, but anybody on here that has an iPhone, just hold it up and say, hey, Siri, find me a law firm nearby, and look at what pops up. It's all a bunch of little Yelp logos, or it'll have the list and say 35 reviews on Yelp. Like that's the main data source for all Apple products and Apple Maps and Apple Voice Search. So if you're not there, you're talking about 20% of potential searches that you're not even in the conversation. And also, like, you never know where somebody's going to find you. Like maybe they'll find you from Avo or Martindale Hubble or even just Google or voice search. So I always start with business listings, because if you're not there, you're not even in some of those conversations. The next piece I look at is more the review side, because we're the Netflix generation. We all have these supercomputers in our pocket that there's now this thing called the 0 moment of truth, which it's not a brand new concept. Google rolled out the idea of this concept over 10 years ago now. But what it is to go back to Mad Men, the traditional marketing, which is what my education is in as well, was always awareness. So I got to know you exist. First moment of truth. I see that commercial for a cereal. I go to the store. I remember the commercial. I buy that cereal. And then the second moment of truth being the experience. It was great. I'm going to buy it again. It was horrible. I'm going to tell everybody at the next barbecue, the cereal sucks, or this law firm sucks. It's that was always traditionally how marketing went. And now we have this zero moment of truth, which is this comparison step, because we all, buy stuff on Amazon and watch shows on Netflix. We are very attracted to stars, and it informs our decision very quickly. And so if you don't have, say, like good ratings on a few, that would be an early indication that I would say, like, hey, we really need to ensure that you're even part of some of these conversations, and that when people are getting there, they're liking what they're seeing. And that's one reason we'll talk about answering reviews and things like that. So making sure Google, Avo, your Yelp page, Martindale, that Justia, that you've got all of the information. A, you're listed. B, that you got a few reviews there. That you got a star rating. And then the third one that I usually look at is more of the conversion on a website. The website is the only place that you control all of your data. And because, if it's Google, or if it's Yelp, or if it's Avo, Justia, you can't always be in charge of what's showing up there. It's your website that is going to be the main connection point that you're going to have with people. And it's the only place where you can control every bit of that message. So making sure, one, that it's aesthetically pleasing. It's a good site to get around. It's not difficult to contact you. It's hard getting eyes. It's even harder getting wallets and getting invoices out. And so making sure that the website converts. And then lastly, I look at the community that you're building on social. And if people are engaging with you over there, once you have those four pieces in place, then it's great to start looking into paid ads, looking into SEO, looking into getting the more eyeballs. But really, you got to build that foundation first.
Yeah, I love that you put this into an easy step-by-step format for us to follow. But we love that because it makes for a really good show notes page, and our audience loves it because they want to know what's the steps, what do I need to do, like what give me the goods. So I want to go back to each of the steps that you shared and ask you questions about it. So the first one was business listings, and first of all, mind blown that Yelp is what Apple products are using to do that search, because so much conversation is about, oh, you got to have your Google My Business listing updated, and you got to, and Google this, Google that. SEO is showing up first on Google, and we focus so much on Google that we forget about the fact, we know there's other search engines, but who the heck is using other search engines, right? Like, nobody's going to MSN.com to do a search. Yes, my in-laws still have AOL email addresses. They're probably going to MSN to do a search, but they're, by and large, the general public is using Google. So you forget about these other things, which it's not that people are going to Yelp to find a lawyer, but they're saying, hey, Siri, do this search for me. And now my phone is waking up. Calm down. Not talking to you. I thought that was really, really mind blowing and eye opening. And I almost think that, like, hey, we have a talk missing at our Law Firm Growth Summit that we need to add, which is, hey, don't forget about the power of Yelp or something like that. But I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and it's something a lot of people don't even know. It's also a really fun exercise that I have with my law firms too, which is, let's do some comparison shopping. When I worked for Dick's Sporting Goods, I always loved, it was my job to go over to Sports Authority or Sports Academy and check out their prices, check out their layout, see what they're doing. And it informed some decisions that we would make. But it's very few and far between a law firm that I talk to and I say, hey, if you just Googled personal injury attorney near me, and what did you see? Who would you choose in that situation? And why would you choose that person? And what could we do to replicate that or to sway that more towards your side? But very rarely done. And you got to do it through a few different ways. Older people are going to search on a computer. Younger people are going to search on a phone. And so, Some people are going to use voice search, but to just kind of go through the experience, see what you see. And that really, doing that due diligence before I even put together a marketing strategy for a business is really important too, because say, it's one of the things that bugs me the most about digital marketing companies and SEO is they come in and they promise the world, right? Every law firm here has talked to an SEO company. It's like, we'll get you to #1 on Google and things like that. I have certainly told more law firms that I can't get them to #1 on Google for something than I've told them that I have. Because if I'm talking to a relatively new law firm in Los Angeles and they're like, yeah, we do car accidents. I'm like, great. There's really no point in doing SEO for car accidents.
So do 500 other law firms in Los Angeles do car accidents.
And your website is 20 pages and the guy that's ranking #1, his website is 15,000. So unless you're planning on writing an awful lot of blogs and an awful lot of content and getting all these sorts of backlinks, like that's just not a reasonable marketing request. And I think a lot of my clients are probably surprised when I say no. I'm like, yeah, SEO is great, not for that. Like it's pointless. Like you'll never beat them.
So let's talk for a moment, because I don't want to get stuck on SEO or lost on SEO, but let's talk for a moment about the person who's in a competitive industry, in a competitive environment where SEO, they won't get #1 in SEO for that. Like, what is the strategy? Is the strategy to say, hey, look, let's hone in on one specific type of injury that you're going to become really good at, and then let's look for a long tail keyword that we're going to try to rank for that injury? Like, is that the strategy, or is the strategy just, hey, let's abandon SEO and just find other ways to market?
No, it's never worth totally abandoning SEO, but you do have to find, we always call it the lowest hanging fruit. If I look on there and I look at maybe like boating accidents, like not enough people doing SEO on boating accidents. And so I have 2 different clients that are #1 for boating accidents in their area, or, jet ski accidents, scooter accidents, as opposed to motorcycle accidents, because motorcycles are also very competitive.
What about slip and slide accidents?
Yes, slip and slide.
I only say that because I broke my foot in August on a slip and slide.
Really? I mean, there's but it's thinking like that though. It's like it's one of the reasons that I ask my clients like what their favorite case was, not necessarily their biggest one case, because one, it like builds an avatar for me. That if it was a middle-aged woman with 2 kids, like, all right, cool. If you like working with those people, I can target those people a little bit better. I can also, there's services out there like Answer the Public, which is a really great site if you have to decide on like what to write a blog on. I use Google Trends a lot too, and if I see, maybe a longer tail keyword that's starting to get a little bit more traction in it, I know that I can jump the market and I can be the guy there. FAQ pages is another great way to kind of answer questions, because not everybody jumps on Google and says personal injury attorney near me. Some of them hop on there and say, how much does a personal injury attorney cost? And now if you have an FAQ or a blog about that thing, you're circumventing. To talk about Yelp again, Yelp advertising is not always a horrible idea. Some people it is, like, and I'll be very upfront, but if I do a search for something, say car accident attorney, and I see Yelp top 10 car accident attorneys in this area as, a top 3 choice on Google, it means, Yelp obviously has a lot of authority in Google's eyes for being able to answer that search query, because that's really all Google's looking for is good answers. And if Google PPC on that topic is $150 a click, but I can run some ads on Yelp and be the top one on Yelp when people click the 3rd thing, that makes a little more sense, right? So being logical about it, finding the lowest hanging fruit, and really, not beating your head against the wall and wasting your client's money. It's something we take very seriously, because that kind of goes right into paid ads. Like, yeah, I can throw $150 at personal injury attorney, or I can do 20 different variations and be getting $5 a click and get even more traffic than that one. So you really got to be strategic around it. And I don't think enough marketing companies ask the right questions to find ways around, skinning that cat.
Yeah, very interesting that like look where Google is sending people and then advertise there. Like if it's going to another listing site, make sure that you're advertising on that listing site, because then people are clicking that link. Now they're seeing your ad. Very interesting a way to look at it and kind of backdoor the system. I want to jump to your number two, which was reviews. And reviews is something that we cover. We've covered on a number of episodes here. One of our top downloaded episodes of all time is an interview with Sam Malai. I don't know if you're familiar with him, where he shares with us how he got 1,000 reviews on Google for his law firm, and he's actually now beyond 2,000 at this point. That episode is a couple of years old. But we'll link that up in the show notes. We also replayed it as a best of sometime in the last year. So really good information on how to get reviews. But my question for you is, you listed like 5 or 6 different places that are listing sites where your law firm will list, and you want to get stars on that site. So you want to make sure you have reviews on that site. And I mean, we both know it's hard enough to get a client to leave a review, let alone ask them to go leave a review here and a review here. And hey, can you leave me a review in these 5 places? Right. It's not happening, right? People are not doing that. So how do you build up those reviews? Does it take, like, if you have to get 5 per and there's 5 of them, does that mean that we're not going to be able to solve this problem until we get 25 reviews? And how much more valuable would those 25 be if we just put them on Google? Right. So like, how do you navigate, where do I send people to leave a review in this process and actually get this objective that you're sharing?
Yeah, I think it's all about doing things smart, doing them strategically. If you don't have any reviews on Yelp, then one 5-star review makes you a 5-star company. So you don't need to sit here and flood all of them with a bunch of reviews. You definitely need to be sure that you got 1, 2, maybe 3. But the bulk of them should be going towards Google. I would highly recommend, because that's going to impact your Google map listings, which is a whole nother way of getting clients. Is, we are kind of lazy as consumers. We do want to find something that's nearby us. We see something nearby, that little red dot pops up and it's got a decent amount of reviews. It's very important. The other thing that I would say as far as generating reviews is systematizing it. So I have some clients where I spoke with their IT guy, and they have free Wi-Fi, which is great. One thing you can do with free Wi-Fi is decide on the landing page that opens up when people log into a Wi-Fi. You can make that your Yelp page. You can make that your Google business listing, or your Avo or Justia. You can change that so that you're kind of funneling people in a direction. We also send out review requests via email or SMS, because I think it's really important to capture it right as they're finishing it. So most of my clients, every week, they send me a new list of all the cases most recently closed, or the cases even getting close to the finish, so that we're reaching out on their behalf. Because again, we're lazy. Unless that opportunity is delivered to us in a very clear, succinct way, press this one button, like it's not going to work. And there's some great services out there, like Bird Eye is a good service. I never knock people when I hear them utilizing a reputation service, because I think that that's a big, super time consuming part of running a firm that really, like, you shouldn't be focusing on. And even having an office manager do it is difficult, but there's really good services out there. I mean, we basically, I'm not going to claim that I'm the smartest guy in the world. I find things that work, and I find our own way to do it and our own way to incorporate it into systems. There's great programs out there like, now I'm going to have to sit here and think of the name of it. I'll have to think about it now. But what they do is they text you throughout the legal process, just to keep you updated on your case, so that you're constantly informing your clients what they're going through. And one of the steps that we've instituted in with them is, step 4 here, right before they're getting that final thing, let's send them some review requests and start getting them, on the way out the door. QR codes is a real easy way to go about it too. Have that on the receptionist desk when, if you're doing pictures with a big giant check, or, you're finding some way to capture the moment of a happy client. having a QR code where they can just scan it and take that QR code, not to your Yelp page, take it to the leave a review page, because you don't want them clicking around and doing things. You want to, again, make it as easy as possible. And then another thing that's really important on the Yelp side, I was not expecting to talk about Yelp this much, but is Yelp has very strict guidelines for their review process. You do not ask people for reviews on Yelp. You say, people love us on Yelp. Check us out on Yelp. So you have to be very particular with the verbiage. And I know that because we're Yelp advertising partners, so I've had to deal with it many times. But also it's such an important platform that you can't just leave it up and cross your fingers and hope somebody's gonna find you over there. You have to have something in your processes. And sitting down and actually, building flowcharts. My company thinks I'm insane sometimes with how many flowcharts I have. But it's really good for understanding the customer journey and making sure that you're turning happy clients into advocates down the road. The last not free tool, but service out there that I would plug that I've had real great results with is called Video Ask. And it's cool. You send them a SMS, which is a little video of the law firm, and it can be a standard message. It's like, we're so appreciative that you chose us with all those choices out there. We're so happy that we got you a great result for your case. We'd love a quick little video testimonial. All you have to do is hit this button. They hit the button, boom, it's recording. They leave a video testimonial, pops right on. You use that for social, use that for the website. So there's tools out there, and whoever your marketing company is, you should be asking them about, like, how do we do this better? And they should be able to provide some answers for you.
Yeah, I love that. I love the process, the tools. It still feels a bit overwhelming, and I always try to put myself in the place of my listeners, right? Like what are they feeling right now? And to me, it still feels a bit overwhelming because there's so many different things, like to send them. Like, even you just added the Video Ask, right? It's a great tool. It's wonderful. But am I asking them for a video testimonial, or am I asking them to leave a 5-star review on Google, right? Like, which am I doing? And I know the answer is, well, make it easy for them and ask them multiple times for multiple things. But the reality of the situation is people are, I don't know if afraid is the right word, but they're prone to shy away from asking too much of their client, right? Like, that's not part of the relationship. Like, it's one thing if maybe in my engagement letter at the beginning, and when I have them sign on with my services, I tell them, hey, as part of using us as a law firm, is you have to leave us 5 reviews in these 5 places, or you don't get your settlement check, something like that. But and I know that's settlement checks are only relevant to a small slice of our listeners. But the concept is there, and I know that I'm saying it in jest, and the reality is we're not doing that, right? So really need to look and understand, like, how do you prioritize what you're asking, and make those choices, because I really don't know that it's realistic to ask them for reviews in so many junctures. One thing I could think of is this is something I bring up a lot, is you don't have to wait until you get a result to get a review. Mm-hmm. Right? The moment that they have a positive experience with your firm, you can ask for reviews. You can ask for a review after they sign up. Mm-hmm. You can say, hey, if you really enjoyed the process of meeting with us and becoming a client, and you thought that we were organized, communicating well, things like that, we'd love it if you would leave a review about that. And you send them, and then that doesn't have to be the Google review, right? That could be the Yelp review, or that could be the Martindale Hubbard, or whatever it is, review that you're leaving. So I could see that at various junctures of the engagement, you can ask for a review based on where we are now and your experience with our firm. Are you still satisfied with the services you're receiving? Yes. Great. We'd love it if you can leave us a review here. So that's one way that I could see navigating this, is just, throughout the engagement, asking for reviews at different places.
Yeah, I would also add to that you have to be a little adaptable. Like, you can't just keep funneling reviews to the same place. And if you have a system in place and where, it's just one little cog in the wheel, that you are flipping a switch. And, before it was going to Yelp, and now it's going to be going over to Martindale, and tomorrow it'll go to Justia. you have to be adaptable for that. We constantly are checking our dashboard. It tracks all your reviews on all the different platforms. And so it's 2 clicks for us to jump in there and say like, okay, well, you look good here, 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 and here. This is where we're running into some issues. Also the bounce rate on your website is a little bit low. Testimonial videos are so great for keeping people on a site a little bit longer. So let's push for a testimonial video next. And I don't think that it has to be something that you're changing every day. I think you should have the opportunity to change it every day. But I mean, really, we look monthly. If I look this month and we generated a decent amount of reviews on Google, then hey, next month let's funnel them somewhere else. And then of course you always have to stick with the algorithms and be sure that you're doing things right. Like say you get, you're seeing a lot of people engage with your review solicitation email. You don't want to use that same email for Yelp, because if you get like 2 or 3 reviews on the same day, the algorithm will flag it and assume, that you were soliciting for these, and none of them will show up. And so now it's all for naught anyway. So even just like sprinkling in, with a lot of my clients, I tell them to ask if they are a Yelp user, because nothing is more frustrating than like, yes, we finally got a review on Yelp, and boom, goes into the not recommended. You're still a 0-star. Like, and that'll happen if they're not a Yelp user. If they're creating an account to leave their very first review, it's not going to show up until they leave 4 or 5 more other reviews, have some friends linked to their Yelp page. Then it could come back from the not recommended. But again, it's all about understanding the system and using it for your benefit, as opposed to right now so many law firms are kind of crossing their fingers hoping that somebody's going to leave them a review. But if you institute a very strategic step in the process, then it kind of works itself out over time. It's the going to the gym muscle. You got to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. You might not see it month 1, but a few months down the road, suddenly you're like, all right, now we got a base here. We got reviews everywhere, and let's start flooding Google.
Yeah, I like that, and I like the you highlight the fact that you have to pay attention to the algorithm. One of the things that I've gotten feedback on from multiple clients and listeners of the show is, hey, I took the recommendation to go and get a bunch of Google reviews. I reached out to all my clients, had them all go and leave reviews, and all of a sudden Google, who hasn't got a review from your law firm for the last 2.5 years, gets 30 reviews sent their way in a matter of a day or two, and they immediately flag them all as spam, and you don't get any of them, or you only get a few, and the rest get lost. So definitely something that to keep an eye on, to understand. I mean, you really need to understand what is the algorithm, what is the what are we doing with this platform. And like Yelp, understanding that the person needs to have left multiple reviews on Yelp. Like, who would know to ask that? Like, you need to understand what's happening behind the scenes to be able to get the process right. And as you were saying it, I was like, okay, so what are we doing? So I guess on the intake form, when they're first becoming a client, we ask them, are you a Yelp user? And how many reviews have you left on Yelp in the last 12 months? And see if we get somebody who says yes and 20, then we know, okay, this is somebody we're going to go after for a Yelp review.
Yeah, I mean, if your system is that in depth, it got to make sure you're not getting to the point of diminishing returns and you're annoying people with it. I think that with legal situations, though, it's such a opportunity to build relationship. And that's actually one of the reasons I like working with firms that have less than 5 attorneys, is because those are the people that really need the marketing help and really could use my expertise more so than some of these huge firms out there, which I've worked with a few of them in the past and helped them kind of build their systems. But I've also told them at certain points, like, you should just hire somebody in-house. Like, you've got all the systems in place. You can have much more of a personal touch if you had somebody in-house doing this for you. And, then I go and find myself a new solo practitioner or a, 3-attorney law firm that can really benefit from finding that low-hanging fruit and starting off on the right foot. So that would be my big advice. If you're a large law firm and you're listening to me, take this advice and take it to your in-house marketing person, or hire an in-house marketing person and build these systems out. If you're that 1 to 5, law or attorney practice, I mean, this this stuff is probably too much, too technical, too complex to really devote a whole lot of time for it. And that's when you need to find, a good marketing company that you can at least, get you off the ground with.
Yeah, and hand it off. And I mean, if you're a 4 or 5 attorney firm, you should probably have a CMO on your team, somebody who's driving the marketing internally, and maybe they're engaging outside vendors to to do some of the things. Like maybe you're not trying to win at SEO internally, but you have somebody who's engaging that SEO company. Maybe you're owning the review process, but the strategy behind it is being driven by a partner that that you have brought on. I don't mean a law firm partner, but I mean a vendor that you've engaged with that's helping you with that. Now we're out of time, and we didn't really get a chance to dive into the website and the community on social. So definitely leaving some room for us to continue our conversation on another interview. But this has been really insightful, Paul, and just getting past go. I mean, like just the basics that we covered, I think was very insightful. I think that there's a lot of room where people just take things for granted that, okay, I put my stuff out there on Google My Business and therefore everybody else knows about it. No, there's a whole bunch of listing directories that you might not be in. Now, a lot of them have a premium option where you can pay for it. And I'm not sure that paying for it is a good use of your marketing dollars. So be very careful when you're taking this advice to say, hey, let me go pay for Avo premium so that I get, a premium listing on there. It's really just important that you're listed, that you have the right details, the right practice area, you have some star reviews. And not necessarily that you need to have a sponsored post or a sponsored listing in every single one of them. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I don't know that the ROI is there from each of them. What are your thoughts on that, Paul?
No, I completely agree. The biggest thing is everywhere that you have an opportunity to create a free listing, it's just time, that's one of the big things that my company does. Is step one is say like, well, are you everywhere? Let's dig in and see where you are. And every single one of those directories that you get listed on, that's another citation to your website. And so if you're thinking at any point down the road you want to do SEO, I mean, that's one of the fundamental building blocks of SEO too, is having lots of citations and backlinks to your site. So just getting those free listings is huge. I don't generally recommend to any of my clients to get premium on anything. If they come to me and ask me if I thought it was a good idea, I would go through that exact exercise with them and search for some of the potential keywords that they would want to capitalize on, see how high up Avo or Justia or Martindale comes up on that. And if it makes sense, then yeah, I'm going to give them my honest opinion until it makes sense. If it doesn't, then it's like, probably better off not doing it and putting whatever money that you had in mind there towards a good blog piece from Answer the Public. Long term that'll affect you, or it'll be more beneficial to you.
Yeah, I think anytime that you have a question of where do I allocate marketing dollars, it really the first place is you need to have an understanding of what your conversion rate is from a lead to a client, and what your average dollar value per client is. Because without that information, you have absolutely no idea how much you can spend to get a client, right? Once you have that information, once you know what your earnings per lead is, once you know what your cost per lead is, you then can do the math. Is it worth it? And we generally want to try to stay in that 15% range, right? We've got overhead, we've got to make a profit, we got to pay our taxes. So you don't want to be spending more than 15% of the revenue somebody's going to generate on the marketing that it costs to bring them in. And even 15% is probably on the higher side. I'd like to see you get closer to 5 to 10%, but 15% is still okay. Like you can have a successful business at that point. So you have to understand when the phone rings and I get a lead, then that becomes, they then go to a consult, they then go to an offer to work with us, and then they sign with us. How many people do we lose along the way? What is our conversion there? And then what's our average case value for new clients that are coming on? And with that information, I can then figure out, because nobody can tell you that it's not worth it to advertise on Avo, right? For example, right? But we take a data-centric approach from it, and we go to, okay, this is what I'm willing to spend to get a lead based on my numbers. So now I'm going to pay for Avo and run it for 3 months, and I'm going to track how many leads am I getting from there. And if I'm spending less per lead from there than the number I'm willing to spend, great, keep spending it. If I'm not, turn it off. So it costs me a small amount to run it for 3 months, but I'm not leaving it and just hoping, right? And that's really what most law firms do, is they turn these things on and they just hope that it's doing something, but there's no tracking and there's no way of knowing is the value there. So I think really understanding your numbers and being able to track your marketing is very important. We're at the time that we release this episode, we'll be past our Law Firm Growth Summit. By the time we're recording it, it's actually a couple of weeks away. For our Law Firm Growth Summit, we actually incorporated separate URLs to track registrants. For example, if somebody heard it on the podcast, they were being directed to go to lawfirmgrowthsummit.com/podcast. And yeah, it's a mouthful and there's an extra string for them to put in. But honestly, when somebody's clicking a link or they're dialing a phone number, you can use CallRail to track the phone numbers. You can use unique URLs to track the links that, where they're going, and see that the lead came from there. Technology is at the point where you could get the data, you could know, and we're able to now see how much of our social media promotion that we were doing was effective. And what was mind-boggling for us was to find out that social media won over email 2-1. We thought our email was the main place where we were getting registrants from, and the reality is that our social was actually more powerful than email. 2/3 of our total registrants that came from email and social came from social. And that was really an eye-opener for us. So tracking this stuff can be really, really valuable as you invest more and more in marketing. Paul, this has been a great conversation. Really enjoyed discussing this with you. Mind blown with the Yelp thing. I've never heard it talked about before, and it's really an eye opener. And I hope that our listeners are quickly scurrying over there, making sure that they have a listing and getting, starting to get some reviews on there. When we close out an episode, we always ask our guests for 2 things. I'm going to ask you for them as well. Number one is, what is one parting piece of wisdom or advice that you want to leave with our listeners? And number 2, how can they take the next step with you if they enjoyed this conversation and they want to learn more about working with you, or anything that you want to offer our listeners that they can get to initiate that relationship?
Yeah, the very last thing that I would remind people, and this is something I've had some clients put a Post-it note on their computer or on their calendar every Friday, which is just, you have to be prepared to be compared. And if you aren't going through and doing some comp shopping every once in a while, it's really difficult to understand the buying psychology that people in your local area are making and how you can capitalize on it. And I think it's a 20-minute exercise that a law firm can do once a week, once a month even, just to have so much better picture of how to get clients in their area. And so be prepared to be compared is something I say a lot in my talks. And if there's any one free thing, low-hanging fruit that I think you would get the most value out of, that's what it is pretend like you're a client for a half hour and see how it goes. And also be very critical of yourself while doing it. When you get to your own website, ask some friends that are not in the legal industry, hey, check out my website. What is the feeling that you're getting from it? Is it easy to use? Things like that. So that would be my parting request from lawyers. If anybody wants to talk to me more, there's lots of easy ways to get in touch with me. On Instagram, I am Honorable Entrepreneur. So you can always find me on Honorable Entrepreneur. A lot of Buffalo Bills stuff, some Marvel stuff, a lot of business and marketing stuff, pictures of my kid. But that's one of the few ones I check just about every day. On LinkedIn, I am ZMOT Expert. And you can also go to the website, zmotexpert.com. That's ZMOT. Right in there, I have a a link where you can download, or I'm sorry, not download, but use our cloud-based eBrand dashboard, which is really the biggest time saver that we have for our clients. On average, it saves about 20 hours a month in managing your online presence, because it takes all those review sites and puts everything on one single spot where you can answer them, even see word clouds. Like, oh, this receptionist gets mentioned a lot in positive reviews, then you can call that person out. So it's a very cool program, but it also has a social media component built into it, similar to Buffer or Hootsuite, where you can schedule out all your social content, save you a bunch of time that way. And then there's a listing builder in there where you can actually run a listing check on yourself and see, if your information is accurate everywhere. We have a free 2-week trial that you can sign up for at Zmod Expert. And I also am a very strict calendar follower. So my calendar link is on there. If you want to pick my brain or even have a fun little deep dive into some strategy sessions, it's my favorite part of what I do, is going and talking marketing strategy and buying psychology and helping businesses uncover those value propositions that they didn't even really realize that they had. So feel free to grab free 20 minutes in my calendar, and we build it out that way. That's also often how I'm brought in as a fractional CMO. So I have some clients that say, hey, we have a marketing company, we're doing a lot of stuff, but I'd love to get a second set of eyes on it. And it's really fun for me to come in there and say, hey, this works, this sucks, but this works. So let's just fix this one little thing and you'll be in great shape.
Awesome, folks. That was a lot. If you're not in front of your computer or a notepad as you were listening to it, don't worry, we got you covered. All of those links and everything, the call to actions, those are all going to be shared in the resources section of our show notes page. Also should be visible in your podcast player. You can easily just click it from there. Paul, this has been wonderful. First of all, thank you for your service to our country, and then thank you for your service to law firm owners. I think this was a wonderful episode, and I think we brought a lot of value to our listeners, and I really appreciate that from you. Folks, if this is your first time listening to the Profit with Law podcast, I hope that you really enjoyed this episode and you're going to join us for the next one. To make sure that you get notified when we release it, make sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player. We're here every Thursday with another great interview for you to listen to and really glean some nuggets from that are going to help you in your law firm growth. And if you found value in this episode, share it with one of your friends, a colleague who's got a law firm, or somebody who's running a law firm who by listening to this can actually get their own actionable takeaway from it, their own insight that can help them in the growth of their journey. People will appreciate you sending them here. Take a moment and share this episode with them so that we can spread the word, spread the message that we're sharing to help people in the growth of their law firm. Take care. Enjoy your weekend. We'll catch you next week. Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.